welcome back to my channel, and today I am giving you a recommendations video of 5 books or series I think you would enjoy. As I was trying to come up with an idea for my next video, I was like, have I ever made a recommendations video? And I looked back and realized that I haven't. I might say in a video, oh, this is a good book or that's a good book, but I don't think I've ever actually made a formal recommendations video. 5 recommendations for you today. 3 of them are parts of series, so if you like series, I guess this list will be for you. Keep in mind that this is my personal taste. These books aren't going to be for everyone, and I tend to like creepy and thriller and mystery novels, so the majority of these books are that. The recommendation I have for you today is the In Death series by J.D. Robb. J.D. Robb is a pen name for Nora Roberts, so these are books by Nora Roberts. I don't read anything else by Nora Roberts. I strictly stick to the series and I am addicted to it. So all of the books in this series are like 200 to 300 pages long. It's a series set in the future, so there's a little bit of a sci-fi twist on it. And it's categorized as romantic suspense. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I mean, that's just how they're marketing it. So this is a book series about the main character, Eve Dallas, who is a cop in the 2050s. So she's, J.D. Robb, or Nora Roberts, started writing these in the 1990s, and she said it in the 2050s. I think we're in like 2058, 2057, something like that. So there's new technology that we don't have. There are new laws that don't exist right now. She'll go around the city and she'll question robots that work at bars and like stuff. It's really interesting. So basically, this is the 5th book. This is not the first book. So basically, the idea of each book is the plot of the murder she's trying to solve and the romance that she has going on. So there is a romantic plot, and you could argue that it is a central plot. So I would say that those are the 2 central plots: the murder she has solving for that book and the romance she has going on. And so this is the 5th book. To my knowledge, there are over 50 books in this series. I do recommend starting at the very beginning, however. While these are fast, addictive reads, and there are so many, the things that are consistent, like her relationships and her friendships, are chronological in order. So if you read the first one and then you read the 11th one, there are things that aren't going to make sense. This is the 5th one. I own the first, so a friend let me borrow the first 3, and then I've been buying the rest of the series ever since. I plan to read the entire series. That's how addicted I am to them, whether I borrow them from the library or I buy them. I'm going to continue reading the series. So I haven't read the 6th or the 7th books. Those are definitely going to be on my list for the next upcoming months, hopefully. Next recommendation I have isn't necessarily a thriller, but they are fun rides. Oh my goodness. It is the Dresden File series by Jim Butcher. So this is the 3rd one. I haven't read this one yet. I've read the first 2 books. The reason why I have this one that I haven't read yet holding up is because the first 2 I listened to an audiobook, so I don't have anything physical to hold up. This is the 3rd one. So it is about a society, a version of our society where everything is modern day, except for one twist, that wizards exist and humans know that wizards exist. And the main character, Harry Dresden, is a wizard, and he assists in murder investigations. So again, just like the J.D. Robb series, this is a really addictive series. I have this weird thing with series where even if I'm really, really enjoying something, I have to read at least 1 or 2 books in between a book series. So I couldn't read book 1 and then immediately jump into book 2. I don't know, my brain just needs a break from it or something like that. It takes me quite a while to finish a series because I do need that like mental break between each book. That being said, the first 2 books of the the Dresden files, I read in like a month and a half because I gobbled up the first one. It was so good. And then I took a break and I read like 2 other books, 2 other really short books, and then jumped into the second one. So the third one is high on my list of needing to read very soon. Something I didn't do for the first book recommendation is I'll just read the back of each of these so you get a sense of the writing style or the synopsis for each of the books. Harry Dresden has faced some pretty terrifying foes during his career. Giant scorpions, oversexed vampires, psychotic werewolves. It comes with the territory when you're the only professional wizard in the Chicago area phone book. But in all Harry's years of supernatural sleuthing, he's never faced anything like this. The spirit world has gone postal. All over Chicago, ghosts are causing trouble, and not just of the door-slamming, boo-shouting variety. These ghosts are tormented, violent, and deadly. Someone, or something, is purposely stirring them up to wreak unearthly havoc. But why? And why do so many of the victims have ties to Harry? If Harry doesn't figure it out soon, he could wind up a ghost himself. So I'm really, really excited to get to this one. Next recommendation I have is Anything and Everything by Darcy Coates. Again, I haven't read this particular one. The one that I absolutely loved, I had on audiobook, so I don't have a physical copy to hold up. So Darcy Coates she writes horror thriller books, and the first book I read by her that I highly, highly recommend is Craven Manor. It was really good and it really sketched me out. It was very creepy. She was very well done. And I remember thinking to myself, I am not reading this at night. There is no way I'm reading it at night. I read Craven Manor a little over a year ago, so I'm gonna forget things a little bit, but it was about a young man named Daniel in his early 20s, and I think he had just lost his job or something along that line, and he was gonna need to pay rent, to buy food, so he desperately takes a job as like a groundskeeper for this really old, decrepit mansion, and he was kind of hired in a rather sketchy way, like there wasn't an initial interview. He didn't fill out any paperwork. He was just hired. And then he goes to the mansion and he lives in this little like apartment hut thing that is like the groundskeeper's house. And he's taking care of this mansion, you know, mowing the lawn, pulling weeds, all that type of thing. And starts to notice some very strange things about the manor, and it is very, very spooky, and I highly recommend it. Any of her books are addicting, but so far, I haven't read all of her books, but so far that is my favorite one. So I highly, highly recommend Craven Manor by Darcy Coates. The next book that I highly recommend, and I highly recommend all of these, but this is currently one of my favorite authors, Eric Rickstad. So Eric Rickstad is a Vermont author. I live in Vermont, so it's one of the things that attracted me to his books. To date, Eric Rickstad is the only author that has ever made me have goosebumps while reading his books. I've read this one, The Name of Dead Girls, and a standalone of his called What Remains of Her. So this is part of a series. but you can read it as a standalone. So I read this one first. I believe this is the third book in the Canaan crime series. The thing that makes it a series, I believe, is that there are some characters that are in this book that'll appear in the other one, in another one of the books. Another thing that makes it a series is that I think all 3 books that take place in that series take place in the same town. So it takes place in Canaan, I think that's how you pronounce it, Canaan, Vermont, which is an actual real town. And it's really cool, especially if you live in Vermont, because he references stuff like Burlington, which is a city, or UVM, which is a big college in the Burlington, South Burlington area. So it's really cool to hear like those local references and know what they mean, and like know what those places even look like, things like that. And this was so creepy. I remember like, so I read What Remains of Her, and then I picked up this one and I was like, is it gonna live up to the hype? Like, is it gonna be just as good as What Remains of Her? This one, in my opinion, is even better. There's a chapter at the very beginning where you're in a serial killer's perspective as he's released from prison. And I just remember thinking, it's like a 2-page chapter. And I just remember thinking, oh God, I don't want to be in this man's head. I need to finish these pages because I really don't want to be in this man's head. That's how good this book is. The other 2 books in this series are Lie in Wait and The Silent Girls. I am going to get to those as soon as possible. I say that about all these series, all these books, but he is one of my top tier authors for sure. So I'm going to try to get to those at this year at some point. They're so good. And again, you can read the series out of order, because if I remember correctly, according to my Goodreads, this is the 3rd one in the Canaan Crime series. The next book I recommend, and the last one on this list, is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. Honestly, when I mention any of these books, I recommend anything by those authors, but this one was really good. So Ruth Ware is one of my favorite thriller authors. She comes out with books like once a year. She writes really compelling thrillers. I've read The Woman in Cabin 10, The Turn of the Key, and my personal favorite, I had to think there for a second of the titles, my personal favorite is The Death of Mrs Westaway. So this particular book is about a woman that that is nannying for a family and gets accused, if I remember correctly, of the death of one of the children. Again, it's been a little while since I've read it, but she gets accused of one of the deaths of the children that she takes care of. And so you're reading her story, like how everything came to be, her perspective, because she claims innocence. And so you're reading from her perspective, and like the house that she's nannying in is supposed to be haunted, and it's like a smart house, so like there's like new technology that is being tested, so like you can say lights on, lights off, heat on, kind of like, you know, oh, what are those called, like Series or Amazon Echoes, something like that. So there's like new technology, so the smart house like plays an effect in the story and the plot as time goes on. Something really interesting about this series is the children's behavior and reactions. I always find creepy children creepy when it's in, you know, horror movies or creepy books. But one of the things that, and this isn't necessarily a spoiler, one of the things that one of the girls says to the woman, and again, I'm forgetting her name because it's been a little while. One of the things that the girl says to this woman as she's leaving the house after she's met them and had a tour of the house, and she says, "Don't come back. the ghosts won't like it, which is very, very creepy. But yes, I personally recommend anything by Ruth Ware. The first one I ever read by her was The Woman in Cabin 10. My also personal favorite, which is somewhere that I can't find, is The Death of Mrs Westaway. This one is really good too. In my opinion, every book that I pick up by her always knocks it out of the park. So you can't go wrong. So those are all my recommendations for this video. If you like it, leave a like or a comment. Maybe you can suggest me some authors that I haven't read, or you can ask, you know, if you want another recommendations video, if you want me to recommend specifically fantasy or nonfiction, let me know, and maybe I'll make another one of these in the future if it does well. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.